Good morning and welcome to the third week of Advent. We're so glad at Rockmont to be walking through this season together with you. As a reminder, the first week of Advent was hope, the second week is peace, and here we find ourselves at joy. And joy is interesting because it's much bigger than a sentimental feeling. It's different than it's just all good. Joy doesn't take its cue from the weatherman or the stock market or the election. Joy is deep-rooted, hard-earned. It's inspired happiness. And the interesting and wonderful thing about joy is it's typically born out of difficult times. When you get through something hard and you're on the other side of it. Let me give you what I think is a good definition of joy. The joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances in our life. And it has everything to do with the focus of our life. So one of the questions you can carry with you this week is, where is your focus? Especially when you're distracted or in something really hard. One of the interesting things about the last year is we've all been in something hard together. It's not somebody else's story, it's our collective story. And so there's a collective question now, what is going to be birthed in this story that we're in? The Advent story is this build up to the birth of Jesus. And our question remains, what is being birthed anew in us? And the hope is that it will be this sense of joy that sustains us into so many other difficult times we're going to be in our lives. My father, who's 92, and my family is blessed to be able to take care of both of my parents during this stage of their life. Dad took a big fall about a month ago, and he was bruised and bloodied. This was not a good-looking scene. He's fine now. That's the good news. But Dad and I were in the emergency department. He's lying there on the table. We're waiting for the doctor to come in. The doctor comes in and the doctor asks, "Mr. Davis, how are you doing?" His cheeks are both bloody and Dad smiles and said, "Doc, I tell you, I don't have a pain or an ache in the world." Now the doctor and I just stared at each other going, what's he talking about? And what I couldn't explain to the doctor at that point was, oh, my dad is navigating in a place of joy that you may not be able to understand. And he is bleeding and he is okay. That's the kind of joy, when things are not going just right, that you have this big hope of what God is doing in the world that's able to have you move through that. Our gospel lesson today is from the Gospel of John, the first chapter, and it's the John the Baptist story. Now at Rockmont, you know, we welcome the wild, so we love the John the Baptist story. One of the powerful things about this story in this week of joy is that John is in the wilderness talking about a hope that is about to happen. He's living in it, and he's talking about somebody that's coming, this rebirth, Jesus coming into his ministry. That is good news for us. In the Old Testament reading, Isaiah talks about the same thing in a different way. Listen to these words from Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, to proclaim liberty to the captives, to the release of the prisoners. He's talking about this year of Jubilee that's coming where they're going to be freed once again. And this certainly is the message as we're in Advent preparing for Jesus coming again and again and again. What in our community is being birthed out? What in you individually is coming alive? Thanks be to God for that joy in our lives. Be well.